Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of our Conversations videos series. My name's Daniel Oxley. I am CTO at Armadillo Managed Services. As you know, we've been running a series of these over the few weeks. This week, I'm joined by Jason Steer from Recorded Future. First and foremost, Jason, thanks for joining me. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hi Daniel. Thanks for having us on. Actually, appreciate any opportunity to talk about threat intelligence. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer globally for Recorded Future.
Fantastic. And you mentioned there about threat intelligence, which is the topic we're going to talk about today. So before we dive in, just a reminder to everyone, these are unscripted sort of conversations. This is not pre-canned questions. There's no sales pitch, no slides. Jason, could you start off by just giving me what is Recorded Future? What are you trying to solve?
Yeah, so it's a great question because you wouldn't believe how many people we talk to on the road who want to understand why is threat intelligence important? What does it actually constitute? And essentially, threat intelligence is what we would typically open source intelligence. What is available on news, on Twitter, on dark forums, on criminal forums, on Telegram, on government sites, all sorts of places that you can derive information from that enables you to make better decisions, Daniel. It really is as simple as that. So what we do at Recorded Future is we go and collect and harvest information from over 1 million sources every hour. And then we bring all that information back to do enrichment, to do, to basically, provide insights and context to, what's going on in London right now, what's happening in Shanghai, or what's happening in Kyiv in Ukraine, or, what's going on with this threat actor or this malware family or this vulnerability. So by collecting so much information on such a regular, consistent basis, we get to build up a picture of what's happening over time, which means, if you work in the SOC or a vulnerability management team, or you work on a threat hunting team, we're able to give you some really great insights about, what's happening around your business, what's happening out there from a criminality perspective. And, the idea is to distill threat intelligence down to its ultimate, objective is decision advantage. If I have this information, can I make a decision that I would not be otherwise able to make?
Okay, so you mentioned a couple of points there. So let me pose a question to you then, sort of put myself in a customer's shoes. So if I'm a SOC manager and I have my EDR tool, it's fully deployed. I've got an integration with VirusTotal as well. I've got my vulnerability manager, my vulnerability tooling, my scanning, everything else. What am I missing then when I'm doing my threat hunting or when alerts appear? What's that missing piece that Recorded Future could give me then?
Let's talk about the SOC operations team, and I think every organization hopefully is logging all the right sources centrally into a SIM, but the difficulty they still have, Daniel, is that they're not able to act with conviction all the time with the right decisions, and that's the difficulty. Even myself, our EDR tool doesn't always detect things consistently and accurately, and that's where your SOC team needs additional sources and context to try and help them make an important decision quickly. And that in the world of ransomware attacks now working in minutes is the window of opportunity to make good decisions when you are a tier 1 SOC analyst straight out of university following a playbook. That's the risk, is what amount of decision making capability can they have in that 15-minute window now. And the other difficulty we have, as you know, is there's just so much event logging happening now, and that the ability to sift through the noise to find the alerts that are meaningful, that do need following up and taking action on, becomes much, much harder. And then the net result for every SOC operations team now is that the tier 1 analysts, when they're not sure, kick it up to the tier 2, tier 3 analysts. And the tier 3 analysts are just being overwhelmed with stuff because they're the ones with the experience and the insights, but they're still reliant on open source tools like VirusTotal, like other tools, where again, there's not enough context to act with conviction about, what is the right decision for my business based on what we know right now. And that just means that you end up in this drowning in alerts and a huge amount of tickets that never really ever can be confidently be closed out, and you end up with just a lot of ultimately risk that you're sitting on because you're not able to authoritatively say this isn't a problem or this is a problem. So the objective, with threat intelligence, as we do in our organization, is to integrate IOC enrichment into the SIM so that we can help the teams prioritize which are high risk indicators. Now, is this a high risk file hash, or is this a high risk domain that someone's connected to help better prioritize and focus on the high risk, high impact events that we do care about versus the low risk. Someone's done a port scan from the internet to my firewall from a known IP address, but it's been blocked, and I don't really care about that too much anymore. So that really is the objective in the SOC, is take out the noise, take out the volume, and get to actually focusing on the most important things.
Actually, that last point you made is one that it came up in a conversation I had recently with a customer. So they were ignoring the rejections on the firewall. Okay, so they were getting blocked connections and everything in great. It's all working fine, but actually, what they were lacking is a context. Where is it coming from? How frequently is it occurring? Is this part of a larger threat that we should be looking at? And that context word, I think, is quite, is quite succinct there. So you've talked about the data points then and your data. How do you keep your data, the data quality? How do you keep it fresh and relevant and make it actionable?
Oh, we can talk about this for hours with our data science team, but we'll reduce it down. But essentially, it starts by collection. Is as frequently as every hour, we're going out to those million plus sources to get fresh data. Then what we do is we ingest that information and we essentially assign what we call an ontology to every piece of data. Is it a sitting? Is it a vulnerability? Is it an IP address? Is it a domain? All those types of things that we can label information. So essentially, you take a sentence of text from the New York Times or the BBC. What we want to find out is, what was the date? Was it published? What was the the article published? Who is it published by? What's it referencing, the subject line, so that we can break down that entire sentence string, so that when someone asks our platform, can you tell me about a cyber event in London in the last 3 months, it will be returned in the results if the text in that sentence is there or not. And that's essentially what we're doing. But the magic that's further behind the scenes is now how we do what we call risk scoring. Is every indicator of compromised cities and other things we provide risk scoring on organizations as well, to essentially do a risk rating in real time of what is the risk of this IP address or this domain. And the important part is that we've got, depending on the indicator, we have a variety of risk rules. Now, for example, if you have an IP address, is it known to host malware? Is it a C2 server? How recently was it observed to be a C2 malware server? What malware server is it associated with? Where's it hosted in? Is it hosted in China or Russia or North America? How many times has it been on block lists by Spamhaus and other organizations? All that type of context that enables that risk score and the risk rules that drive that risk score to effectively give, the defender, the person who has to make a decision to assess the risk, to then ascertain, okay, this is a risk score of 98. This is literally as bad as it gets. We probably would want to do an investigation if this IP address is touching our infrastructure. And then, the important part is, this is the tactical operational part of security teams, but the important part is being able to move that up the pyramid of pain, as we call it in the intelligence world, is to connect that IP address to known malware infrastructure. Can we, if we think it's important, actually derive the threat actor perhaps behind it as well, so that we can communicate to the business, to your previous point, is there a who? Is there a why behind these types of maybe more targeted attacks that we now need to think about as a business, that we need to think about do we have the appropriate controls and policies and processes to effectively detect and mitigate, an attacker coming to our organization who looks like they're motivated and capable of targeting our industry?
And we've come back to our context point from earlier. And so I think what I'm picking up on here is it's about layering in. So with the integrations, so we use our data sources to collect, and I know Recorded Future integrates into a plethora of platforms, whether it's the SIEM or directly into the tooling as well. So if I've got my alert, and it could be an alert pop up about lateral movement, or it could be attempts at RDP, things like that. When we by themselves, they don't look particularly nasty, especially if they've been blocked. But when you build up that bigger picture and you build in that, I know you can look at the ransomware gangs and you can link an IP address, or you could link a threat, a style of threat as well. And when we start having that view, that context, all of a sudden it changes the decisions that a SOC or a risk manager is making. So, I mean, data it's always been said it's possibly the most, after time, it's the most valuable asset known to man, or known to humankind, I should really say. It's also a crowded space. There's other players which you both complement well, and you compete with in the market. I think Microsoft is one of the ones that you come up. So how do you differentiate yourself? At the risk of asking a sales question here, I mean, you're market leader, so how do you differentiate yourself in the way that you're doing it?
Yeah, Microsoft absolutely are, a huge contender in the market space for intelligence as a CrowdStrike, as are Google. There's probably those are three big giants who are moving into the threat intelligence space. And Google just announced their threat intelligence capability 3 weeks ago at RSA. So, I think as market leader, I know we've been doing this for 12 years now. We've been building, a real-time threat intelligence platform that integrates beautifully into tools like Splunk, like SentinelOne, like CrowdStrike, like Palo Alto for a long time. So we're well ahead on the collection, the risk scoring, the risk rules, the whole thing. We do language translation in 10 different languages. I think we're well ahead, but what we have to focus on is not what we've achieved to date, but what do we continue to do now? And that really is driving workflows and automations. Every organization is under-resourced. Every organization, can't and shouldn't rely on human beings to make decisions. Is how do we build more effective workflows that address a lot of the detection use cases in the SOC, in the third-party supply chain management, in the vulnerability management chain, even in the geopolitical, physical security aspects of security organizations as well. So I think what we do is we're unique in some of the sourcing that we do. We do go into some very interesting places to get unique data sets that nobody else can buy. And that surfaces as things like network traffic analysis. How can we tell you that one of the IP addresses on your edge infrastructure is communicating to a known C2 server? So there's a lot of innovative things that we continue to do to help our clients find bad stuff in their organization and shut it down, hopefully with minimal impact. And for me, the important part is if organizations like Google and Microsoft are talking about threat intelligence and the value of it, our clients are inevitably going to have to think about who else is out there and what other capabilities are there. And I think we would say that we're probably the only threat intelligence platform that probably addresses all use cases across most security teams' requirements. And you can absolutely go out and buy 3 or 4 different intelligence providers to do that, and join it all together. But I know as a CISO that the pressure is hard right now. You want to consolidate vendors and tools, not be buying more to try and achieve the same outcome. So there's also the reality of and the financial restrictions that a lot of CISOs and security teams find themselves under today as well, which does play to our benefit sometimes.
Fantastic. So just final question. I want to come back to the data part, which is a topic that sort of fascinates me. So you're collecting all this data. Some is structured, some is unstructured. Okay. now I can use it for enrichment, integration into a tool. So if I've got an alert, I've got the recorded future data right there. But what about if I'm just doing my research? I believe you've got an AI engine now where I can sort of ask natural language questions. Can I query your database? Can I sort of go in and say, how could I query it? What sort of data could I look for, questions I could ask?
Oh, yeah, the AI tool that we launched, maybe, gosh, it must be over a year ago now. So essentially what we're doing is taking the user experience out of the way, for our clients using our query builder and our platform, maybe is still too much for them, believe it or not. And so it's a natural language query that's similar to OpenAI in the sense that you literally ask it a question. Can you tell me about ransomware attacks to the pharmaceutical industry in the last 90 days? And then you could dig into it and say, okay, over the last 30 days, ransomware incidents targeting pharmaceutical in Europe. And tell me more about the top 2 threat actors targeting the pharmaceutical industry in Europe for the last 30 days, and put it into bullet point format in 50 words.
Wow.
So, what we're essentially doing, and this was the important part of the AI tool feature, is enabling analysts at our client organizations to spend far less time writing reports and far more time actually doing threat hunting, doing research, doing the actual security work. I can remember doing a project with one of our clients 5 years ago, and their researcher said he spent 4 hours writing one report, and he was writing maybe 5 or 6 reports a week, depending on what was going on. So to be able to, even I do with OpenAI, I wouldn't use 100% of the text it produces, but if I can use 80 or 90% of the text and rewrite some of the words myself, if my boss is listening, sorry, but we all should be doing this, is you're saving time and you're actually getting your resources to do more important things. So that's the objective, is whether it's asking you about ransomware, or what is the impact of the recent bombings in Ukraine over the last few days to the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian army's capabilities to defend, or what is the most recent arrest warrants against Russian criminals. You can ask it anything and everything, and it should provide you some great insights. And the final part is that you can be as close and personal to yourself. One of the things that our platform's great about is we know about your technology stack, we know about your domain, we know about your business if you want us to. And you can say, have there been any phishing sites against my organization in the last 3 months? Just simple things like that.
So as a customer, I could seed it with information about my domain names, maybe my perimeter addresses. That's fantastic. Jason, thank you very much. I feel like we could go on, and the data topic is fascinating. We're recording this the week before InfoSec, so I believe you'll be at InfoSec yourself next week as well. I thoroughly recommend to everyone to pop along to the Recorded Future booth as well. But otherwise, Jason, thank you very much indeed for your time. It's highly appreciated, and goodbye.
Thanks for having me on, Daniel. Speak to you soon. Take care.
Bye.